I want to talk about this when it comes to Filecoin. Nothing I say is financial advice. However, very recently, Filecoin made this post saying how Cardano developers that build with BlockFrost already have the option to store data on Filecoin. Now, when it comes to BlockFrost, allegedly, it's something that is an all-in-one API for Cardano and IPFS. But besides all that, though, I think what I find pretty interesting about this post is how, again, there's an aspect of Cardano, which is one of the most recognizable layer 1 blockchains out there, just one of the most popular out there. That's the way to take a look at it. So seeing something like this, seeing the popularity of Cardano, if some of it were to hypothetically trickle down to something like Filecoin, I don't think it necessarily surprised me considering something like this. Now, besides all that, though, do I think Filecoin is the most popular project of all time? No. And is FIL, its utility token, around 13.5 times lower than $20? Yes, it is. But at the same time, I actually believe that Filecoin, to me, feels like the most popular and recognizable project within its niche, which is data storage. Because if we take a look at Filecoin in comparison to some of the other more popular options within its niche, take a look at Jasmy, right? Take a look at Arweave, take a look at Filecoin, and even take a look at something like Storj. Some people call it storage, but it's spelled like ST or J. But besides that, like that's just pretty much 4 other recognizable competitors when it comes to the niche that it's in. But the thing is, Filecoin's just way bigger than all of them. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like way bigger than something like Jasmy, but it's still way bigger in my perspective. And when I take a look at it overall, Filecoin, it's pretty much kind of had this number 1 position within the niche that it's in for, I think, quite a number of years as of right now. And when people like to tell me, well, when it comes to FIL at $20, why am I even thinking about that? Well, the thing is, when people like to say, well, there's just too much competition as of right now. If there's a hypothetical altcoin season, they think that $20 is kind of out of the question. But sometimes my kind of reaction to that is, let's just take a look at, for instance, what are the main competitors, or should I say, what are kind of the famous projects in data storage back in 2021? And let's fast forward to right now. Or should I say, let's just take a look at right now, right? For instance, back then, Filecoin, Jasmy, Arweave, Storj, and as well as Filecoin, they were popular, right? They were kind of the known ones within this space. But we fast forward to right now, isn't it kind of still exactly the same pretty much? Now, granted, some projects appeared, right? And generally speaking, within this space, there's more competitors overall, but a lot of them are memes, and a lot of them sometimes don't really have anything to do with this space. Like I'm talking about the data storage niche, right? So if let's say back in 2021, during the peak of that cycle, allegedly there was around 300 million owners. We fast forward to right now, supposedly there's over 600 million, right? We consider that there's pretty much double the amount of owners, but then the amount of projects that are kind of popular within the space of data storage pretty much stayed the same. So again, way more owners, no altcoin season as of right now. We'll wait and see what happens moving forward, but I'm saying as of right now, no altcoin season that I've seen during this cycle. And data storage, there's pretty much kind of the same amount of famous projects. Yet again, they're just more owners. So if there's more owners, right, sort of more individuals, however, the amount of projects kind of stayed the same from years ago, won't the sort of attention be focused on just a couple of projects as opposed to a lot more? Because had there been 20 or 30 more sort of prominent projects within data storage that appeared, that'd be a different case. But it just doesn't feel like that to me. So if, let's say, the data storage kind of niche has sort of that attention during an altcoin season now with this many owners, what could happen to the few projects that exist that are kind of popular? You know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me if, let's say, hypothetically, there was somewhat, maybe some make-believe attention. This is just my perspective. And the thing about Filecoin is that not too long ago, remember what they did with Avalanche? Avalanche is also just very popular overall. And if we take a look at it as a layer 1 blockchain, again, it's pretty popular as well, like Cardano. Cardano's more popular though, but I'm just saying, besides all that, Filecoin seems to be doing things with other projects that are just seemingly way more popular. But is that a bad thing? No, I don't think so, because why not, right? I guess it's not such a bad thing, personally, in my perspective. Now, FIL at the hypothetical idea $20. The market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be approximately 14.5 billion. It's not going to be breaking any records by any means. It's not going to be kind of like I guess, making any sort of major headlines, I suppose, beyond the space of data storage, I guess. But at the same time, it just maybe doesn't seem too hypothetically ridiculous to me, because I saw Shiba Inu reach around 40 billion in terms of market cap years ago back in 2021. That year as well, I saw Dogecoin reach around 80 billion. Is this market cap so ridiculous? I don't know if it seems that way to me, just because, again, this isn't even 50% of what Shiba Inu reached back in 2021 at one point in terms of market cap. But besides all that, what I think overall kind of makes me not want to give up when it comes to Filecoin is that if I take a look at just historically speaking, let's say I take a look back in 2024, which I get it seems kind of like a while ago at this point because we're in 2026, but still, we're in the beginning of 2026. But actually, back in March of 2024, FIL at one point, the price was nearly $11. So at that point, actually, the journey to like, $20, it wasn't even like 2 times away. You know what I mean? At that point, right? Nearly $11. If it just did like a 2x from that, we're talking about already over hypothetically 20 at that point. And the thing is, I don't think that was an altcoin season. You know what I mean? If I take a look at 2023, 2024, 2025, I don't think any moment, at least to me, felt like an altcoin season. And FIL already did that. So what could happen if there was a hypothetical actual altcoin season? This is kind of my mindset sometimes, but this is just my perspective. Now, also on top of that, though, kind of my perception as well is that when it comes to Filecoin, my mentality is that sure, as of right now, it's like below $2, right? So it's not doing the best. I'm totally aware of that. But does that necessarily concern me? Actually, not really, because my intention is to do something called dollar cost averaging. So if I'm dollar cost averaging and then something is low, I'm not going to complain about that. It's like, for instance, in a totally different example, I'm not saying about this, right? I'm saying a different example. If let's say I walked inside a store and I liked a pair of jeans and there was randomly a discount, would I like that? I'd actually like it even more because there's a discount on something that I like. But within this space, sometimes it just doesn't really seem that way because if there's a pullback, right? A lot of my friends out there, they seem to think that the project became bad. But personally for me, if I still like the project, yet the market cap became lower than a point in which I was even dollar cost averaging before, I'm not going to complain about that. If anything, I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but personally, I am dollar cost averaging once a month. That's it. Now, I'll never be able to know exactly what could ever happen to a project, but I just like to stay patient. That's it. I like to be waiting as opposed to not, I guess, because, for instance, Bitcoin 10 years ago, it's lower than right now, right? Way lower, I should say. But was I waiting for that? No, I wasn't. It did its thing without me. So whether or not I'm in this space, it's going to do whatever with or without me. You know what I mean? So that's why I like to be waiting for something. Now, clearly, though, I could just exit and not care. I could do that. But I'm still going to have to live my life anyways, right? I'm still going to have to go through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and so on. You know what I mean? Whether I'm holding or not. So that's why I like to be holding in case, I suppose. But that's just kind of my mindset. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I wanted to make this updated video when it comes to Filecoin and kind of give my perspective on the project and also what I saw recently when it comes to, what I just talked about, like Cardano and all this when it comes to Filecoin. So yeah, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll see you all in the next video.